Hi, welcome to Positive Preschool Tips. I'm Cindy. I wanted to review a video that I did several years ago. It is by far my most popular video and it has the most comments. And that video was the 5 common mistakes people make when talking with young children. I will put a link to that video in the description box if you want to look at the original. But I thought it was about time to maybe do a little refresher of the video and also add some of the ideas that you, the subscribers, had added in the comments section that I thought were such great ideas. And I wanted to add those ideas as well. So today we're going to talk about the 6 common mistakes people make when talking with young children. So let's just jump right in it. I'm sitting today in front of this felt board because I did some virtual teaching because of COVID, and this was just one of my backdrops. So that's what that is. But let's get into it. Number 6, that is over flattery. When you just go over the top telling a child how fabulous they are or how great their artwork was, and what happens when you are doing something way over the top, it really comes across as insincere. And the children can pick up on it. And then what happens is you lose the value of giving them a compliment or telling them when you really think they've done a great job because they've tuned you out because you're saying it so much. So save the over flattery and really just talk from your heart. Tell them when you really think that they're doing a great job or you're really proud of them, and that's going to have way more impact. Number 5. This one was from one of the people that commented on that video, and I thought it was a great suggestion to add. And that is saying things and really kind of using them as a threat when you really have no intention of following through. So, for example, in the classroom, I've heard teachers say, well, we're not going to go on that field trip if everybody doesn't get things cleaned up right away. And in reality, the field trip is already scheduled, the parents have already paid, the t-shirts are already bought. You're not going to cancel the field trip. So be sure not to use those little carrots to hang over them when you know that that is really something that you are not going to be able to follow through with. The children are smart enough to figure that out, and they may say, no, 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 and start cleaning up, but it really is a hollow threat. So give them a more reasonable consequence for the behavior than something that you know is not going to be something you follow through with. Number 4, using terms that have no meaning to the children. Simple terms like, you know better than that. Haven't I told you before not to do that? Why is it that I always have to tell you that? Reality is that if you are having to say something again, it is probably because the children don't know that or haven't understood that. And children do learn through lots of repetition and lots of repeating directions and ideas over and over again. So even though you feel like you have said the statement 18 million times, you really might need to repeat it again for the child. And by just sort of harping on, you know better than that, haven't I told you that before, really doesn't tell the child what it is that you're wanting them to do. So those are terms that you can just do away with because they really are not effective when you are trying to talk to a young child. Which brings us to number 3. Number 3 is don't use a statement and put it in the form of a question. So if you are asking all the children to come sit down at the table to do art, I've heard teachers say, we're going to do art. Does everybody want to come sit down? Does everybody want to come? Do you want to come sit down? Do you want to do art? Well, the reality is that isn't a question. It is time for everyone to sit down because now we're doing art. So you want to be sure that you are not forming those kinds of directives and commands in the form of a question. So instead of saying, does everybody want to come sit down? You simply say, it's time for art. Everyone needs to find their seat and sit down. Very clear and very direct. Which brings me to number 2, which is very similar to number 3. It is when you give a command, but then after your command, you put okay with a question mark after it, which then turns it into a question. And I have to tell you, when I was a first-time teacher, this was a habit that I had, and it was very hard to kick. The way you can get over that is to have maybe a coworker listen to you and just sort of give you a signal every time you put okay at the end of a command. And then you start hearing it yourself, and you may be more likely to be aware of it and be able to no longer use it. So if you want children to come and do art, if you use that command, it's time for art, everybody come sit down. Okay, well now you've just made it into a question again. And the children then can feel like, well, that's not okay with me. I may want to come, or maybe I don't. So you just want to be very direct and very clear on what it is that you want them to do. And that's really helpful for the children because they are looking at the adult for direction. So work on that. I know it's a hard one. If you do it, it's really hard to break. And the only way to break it is to be aware that you're doing it. So that's number 2. And then it brings me to number 1. And this is another strategy that you have to sort of rethink about when you're doing it. So you want to always state what you want the child to do in positive terms as opposed to using a negative or negation when they're doing something. This is my favorite example to use. If a child is standing on the table, instead of saying, don't stand on the table, because when you say that, the children are hearing stand and table. Instead, put it in terms of what it is, not what you don't want the child to do, but what you want the child to do. So in that example, you would say, put your feet on the floor. And then the children hear feet, floor. It's a simple little difference in the way that you think and the way that you give the children direction. But I'm telling you, it's a game changer. If you can remember to, instead of saying what you don't want them to do, and instead be exactly clear on what it is you want them to do, you are going to get way better results. You are then giving them a clear direction for them to follow, which makes it much easier for them to do what it is that you want them to do. So that is my recap of this time, 6 mistakes, common mistakes that people make when talking with young children. If you have another great idea, please give me a comment. I can always add to it or do a 2.0 video to add other strategies. These are the ones that are most common that I see when I go into classrooms. So I wanted to add them, but there may be other really good ones out there that I would love to share with our preschool community. So thanks for watching today. As always, I appreciate your time. I would love it if you would subscribe, comment, like, and come back and tune in to Positive Preschool Tips again. Thanks so much. Bye now. Have a great day.